30 bronze gears, hand-cut, sealed inside a wooden box the size of a book. It is 2,000 years old. It predicted eclipses down to the hour, and nothing this complex survives anywhere for the next 1,400 years. The ancient world built a computer and then lost it. Welcome back to Embers Chronicles. Tonight, a computer from the ancient world, lost at the bottom of the sea. And the 100-year struggle to understand what it truly was. Antikythera is a barren scrap of rock, stranded in the channel between Crete and the Greek mainland. Ships have hugged its cliffs for 3,000 years, sheltering from sudden storms. In the year 1900, a crew of Greek sponge divers waded out one of those storms, and when the sea finally calmed, they went down looking for sponges. 45 meters down, diver Elias Stadiatis walked into a nightmare. Pale arms and faces reached out of the gloom all around him. He surfaced shaking and shouted that the seabed was covered with bodies and horses. His captain thought the deep air had scrambled his head, went down to look, and came back holding a bronze arm. They were statues, bronze and marble masterpieces, the cargo of a great Roman-era ship that sank around 60 BC. Most likely it was hauling Greek treasures to Italy. The Greek state hired the divers to raise the treasure. It became what is still called the first great underwater excavation in history, and it was paid for in blood. One diver lost his life to the bends, and 2 more were left paralyzed. Statues, glassware, jewelry, coins. The finds filled the National Museum in Athens. And among the marble gods sat one object nobody cared about. A cracked green shapeless lump. Over the following months, the lump dried out and split apart. Today, 82 fragments survive, and the largest is barely the size of a paperback book. Everything we know, we had to read out of those pieces like torn pages. In May 1902, archaeologist Valerios Stais looked closer at those fragments. Embedded in the rock-hard corrosion was a shape that had no business being there. A gear wheel, its triangular teeth cut so fine he had to count them under a lens. Precision gears belonged to clocks and engines, worlds that lay far in the future. In everything that survives from ancient Greece, there was nothing else like this. Not even close. And so the experts refused to believe it. This must be a far later object, they said, dropped onto the site centuries after the ship went down. The tray went back on the shelf, studied by a stubborn few and ignored by everyone else, and it stayed there for 50 years. Then a physicist named Derek de Solla Price became obsessed with the lump nobody wanted. He studied the fragments for 20 years, and in 1971 he finally saw through them with X-rays. The plates showed the impossible in black and white. At least 30 interlocking gears, packed into a case no bigger than a shoebox. And the teeth had been counted for a reason. The fragments hold the ghost of a wooden case, about the size of a large book. Inside it sat a stack of bronze plates and gear wheels, some with teeth barely 1.5 millimeters apart, with dials on the front and on the back. The physicist counted the teeth on one of the small wheels. 127. In 19 years, the moon lapsed the stars 254 times. Half of that is 127. The gear was doing astronomy. Every tooth was cut by hand, one at a time with nothing to guide the file. On that one wheel, it meant 127 identical cuts, and a single bad one ruined the whole disc. A spiral dial on the back ran the metonic cycle. 19 years of moons, 235 full moons, coiled into a groove you could follow with a fingertip. Set the pointer once, and the same groove gave you the next 19 years, and the 19 after that. And the biggest wheel in the machine carried 223 teeth. 223 full moons is the Saros, 18 years and 11 days, the ancient rhythm on which eclipses repeat themselves. Let that sink in. This machine did not just follow the sky. It predicted eclipses, the month, the kind, and the hour it expected them. And that is only what survived. What we have is barely a third of the machine. Whatever else it could do went into the sand. So who, more than 2,000 years ago, could have built such a thing? One trail points toward the island of Rhodes, where Hipparchus, the greatest astronomer of the ancient world, did his work. The moon's changing speed, the thing he studied hardest, is built into these gears. And ancient writers swore such machines existed. Cicero described a bronze sphere by Archimedes that moved the sun, the moon, and the planets exactly as the heavens do. He wrote that Posidonius of Rhodes had built another. Rhodes again. The same island, the same generation. It was no temple ornament. Its dials answer practical questions. Which games fell in which year? When the moon would darken. Some believe it taught students the shape of the cosmos. Others believe it was a wealthy man's proof that the universe could be known. In 2005, the fragments were still too fragile to travel, so an 8-ton X-ray scanner was shipped from England to Athens and aimed at the lump. Inside the corrosion, invisible for 2,000 years, were letters. Thousands of tiny engraved Greek characters, hiding on plates and covers all through the machine. It carried its own instruction manual. The scans kept giving. A dial counting down the 4-year cycle of the Great Games, Olympia among them. A dial telling you to add 8 hours to an eclipse time, or 16. And a calendar ring, lifted out and turned back 1 notch every 4 years, because that calendar had no leap day and kept sliding out of step with the seasons. Then buried in the gearing, a tiny bronze pin riding in a slot. It makes the moon on the dial speed up and slow down as it crosses the stars, almost exactly the way the real moon does. Someone had measured the moon's uneven pace and then built it into metal. Picture it whole. On the front, the sun and moon crawl through the zodiac while a small ball, silver on one side and black on the other, turns to show the moon's phase. On the back, 2 great bronze spirals count the months and warn of eclipses. Turn one hand crank, and the heavens obey. Here is the part that should keep you up at night. Nothing of this complexity appears again in the surviving record for roughly 1,400 years. Not until the great astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. And the craftsmanship says something stranger still. To cut teeth like these you need iron files, a steady hand, and serious mathematics. The lettering across the plates never hesitates once. Most researchers agree this was not a first attempt. Machines like it had been built before, which means the Antikythera mechanism is not just a machine. It is the lone survivor of a lost science. Saved for us by a storm, a sunken ship, and a diver who thought he saw bodies on the seabed. And we are not finished reading it. As late as 2021, researchers were still proposing an answer for its missing front display. A miniature cosmos of 5 planets, riding on rings, driven by gearing that did not survive. Every other machine of its kind was melted down for coins and weapons. Or it is still down there, in a wreck no diver has ever found. So what do you believe? Was this the masterpiece of a single forgotten genius, or the last trace of an entire technology that history erased? Tell us your theory in the comments below.